Hi everybody, and welcome to German Words versus Wisconsin Place Names. I came up with this idea this afternoon when we were joking on Twitter about difficult German words we could ask Richard Armitage to pronounce. And I thought of this game we sometimes play in Wisconsin where we ask people from away to pronounce Wisconsin place names and then laugh at them, which isn't very nice. But keep in mind we're laughing not at you but with you. And throughout this presentation, you can ask yourself, what's more difficult, German words or Wisconsin place names? It's not entirely clear, I think. The German words in this presentation were suggested by fellow fans of Armitage. So sometimes I think German words are frightening merely by virtue of the fact that they seem to be extremely long. The first word on this list became famous when it was allegedly removed by the EU from the German law code. The word is Rindfleisch-Etikettierungsüberwachungsaufgabenübertragungsgesetz, which I think means something like the law about the task of supervising beef labeling. Anyway, no worries, it's not a word anymore, so you'll never be asked to use it, but it's not like anyone but a bureaucrat used it before. A word that came up a lot when I was in college is the second word on this list, Donaudampfschifffahrtsgesellschaftskapitän, which means the captain of a steamship company that travels on the Danube River. There were actually people who did this. Maybe there still are, for all I know. But again, not a word in common usage. There's a lot of bureaucracy in Germany, as everywhere. And German bureaucratic words are especially beautiful. So the third word is a bureaucracy word. Bezirksschornsteinfegermeister, which means the chief of a district of chimney sweeps. So if you ever run into chimney sweep in Germany, he has a boss, and the boss is the Bezirksschornsteinfegermeister. The fourth word on this list is one I ran into on the web this afternoon, Toilettenbürstenbenutzungsanweisung, which means the directions for the use of a toilet brush. Yes, and there are directions for the use of toilet brushes in Germany, apparently. I saw a few. But a word doesn't have to be long to be surprising or not what you expected. An example of this is an English word that's crept into German in the last 25 years or so, happy. Ich bin ganz happy. I'm not sure that happy means exactly what happy means in English when I say it, but you sometimes see these English words and they have their own German pronunciations and their own German meanings. And then finally there are a few words that are left over from the days in which France had a big influence on the German language. So an example of this would be balcon, which is a word from the French. It doesn't look like there's a G on the end of that word, but if you hear a German say it, you'll hear that G for sure. The best thing to do is just take a deep breath, smile, and say the word as best you can. That's the way to get the best response. But if German words are hard to pronounce, sometimes Wisconsin place names are hard to pronounce too, starting with the very word that we have for the state. A lot of times we hear ads that are made for us in other parts of the country, and we hear people say Wisconsin or Wisconsin, and we know, oh, they're not from here. Why is that? Because the first syllable of the state is pronounced W, Wisconsin. Another thing you can do wrong is you can emphasize that second syllable, Wisconsin. Well, if we hear you doing that, we know you're not from here either. So I'm Susan and I'm from Wisconsin. That's how you say the place name. That's how we know that you're one of us. Okay, Speckschneckchen. This is a really useful word, and if Richard Armitage ever sees one of these, I recommend he try them. It's a kind of pastry with speck in it, which is a sort of bacony pork product. Don't they look tasty? Speckschneckchen. It's really hard to say though, so I would recommend that Armitage simply point his finger at one and say, Darf ich bitte eins haben? May I have one please, politely, and smile that charming smile, and he should get his Speckschneckchen without any problems at all. Oh, Wisconsin place name. This is commonly said to be the hardest name to pronounce in Wisconsin. It's pronounced Oconomowoc, and it's in Waukesha County. If you ever watched Happy Days on TV, Richie went to Waukesha High School. This is a Native American origin name, and you're basically just guessing. You have to know how these names are pronounced before you can say them accurately. German word. This is a tool that punctures your egg in a way that makes it easy to unpeel the egg after you've poached it. And the word is Eierschalen-Sollbruchstellen Verursacher. I'm under the impression that this isn't a word, real word. This is a made-up word. People have these in their houses. I don't know what they usually call them, but I've never ever heard anyone say Eierschalen-Sollbruchstellen Verursacher. But this was proposed by a fan. I think Higher Ed suggested this. Wisconsin place name. This is the town where my parents went to high school. It's also on a list of commonly mispronounced Wisconsin place names. People who are from this city say Waywiga, and Waywiga is in Waushara County. This is also Native American, and it either means we rest here or it means old lady. We're not sure, but it is a cute little town. Hard to say. There's a big cheese factory there. Definitely worth a visit. Small town America. Oh, German word. Gefahrenabwehrverordnung. This is a word I've only ever seen on a sign. And it means the statute or the ordinance for defense against dangers. This sign also has another word that Americans think Germans say a lot, and Germans actually never say, Achtung, which means attention or pay attention. In any case, Germany is full of these signs that refer to laws, but it's, again, a word that you would never use and a word that you would pretty much only ever see on a sign. It was proposed by Herbert Minor. So you say, I can't pronounce European place names, or sorry, I can't pronounce Native American place names correctly, but I probably can pronounce European ones. So this is the little town where my sister-in-law goes grocery shopping once or twice a week. And guess what? It's pronounced Berlin. Not Berlin, Berlin. To complicate it, there are two little towns in Wisconsin named Berlin, and there's a third town called New Berlin. And yes, they're all Berlin. Sort of common wisdom about this is that these names were Americanized or de-Germanified when the U.S. entered World War I against Germany. About 44% of people in Wisconsin have a German ancestor, so there are actually a lot of German place names, but you have to ask people how they're pronounced because the German pronunciations have in most cases been erased or removed, and there aren't any more German speakers living in those places. But it's also a cute little town that I recommend that you visit sometime. Okay, German word, also proposed by Herbert Minor because she was watching a documentary this evening about Dr. Oetker, who was famous for this. The word is Puddingpulverabfüllsaal. Puddingpulverabfüllsaal, yeah, right. Which is a big room in a factory where you fill packages up with pudding powder. I can't imagine that Daniel Miller's tasks will ever take him to a pudding powder factory, but in that case, he could use this word. I Googled it, and it's not a very common word either. There are only 2 or 3 references to it, but I guess Herbo was watching this film tonight, and so she saw this word and thought maybe Richard Armitage should try and say it. Pudding is really good. It could be useful. Okay, next Wisconsin place name is coming up. This comes from the French. The French were the first Europeans to show up in Wisconsin in the very late 17th century and early 18th century. They came here in the course of the fur trade and settled in the center of the state before they headed down the Mississippi. This is Little Lake Butte-des-Morts. I drive across this bridge probably once or twice a week. It's called Butte-des-Morts because when the French governed the territory, which I think they did certainly to the end of the French and Indian War, There was a battle between the French and the local Indian tribes, the Menominee and the Fox Indians, and the French massacred the Indians and piled up their bodies in a big pile at the edge of the lake, and so the lake is called Butte des Morts, and that means Little Lake Hill of the Dead. Really pretty lake, fun place to go fishing, not such a pretty name. There are a lot of mispronounced French names around here. Fond du Lac, which we say Fond du Lac for. So this is a dialect word, and we had a discussion on Twitter about whether this is fair because not only can Richard Armitage probably not say this word correctly, there are a lot of Germans who probably can't say this word correctly. But in any case, this is a tasty drink. It's a fermented apple juice or apple wine that you get in Hesse, the area around Frankfurt am Main, and it's pronounced Ebbelwoi. Ebbelwoi. See, I'm not even sure if I'm saying it correctly. You usually get it with homemade cheese on a piece of dark bread, and that's called Handkäse, and sometimes you can get Handkäse mit Musik, and that means that there's a little chopped up onion on top of this. Can't say it, but I have tried it, and Richard Armitage, if you're drinking this, 2 glasses maximum, because more than that will give even the most experienced drinker a headache. Ebbelwoi. Am I saying that right? Ebbelwoi. So you say in Wisconsin, I can't say the Native American names right, I can't say the European names right, but I can at least say the names correctly that are English names. Ha ha ha, you were wrong. This is something that we hear on TV a lot because we have a nationally prominent football team called the Packers. The Packers come from this city, and then the correct pronunciation of this city is Green Bay. I'm going to Green Bay, but the national broadcasters will say Green Bay. So if somebody shows up around here and they say, oh, I'm here to go to the city of Green Bay, yeah, we know that they're from away. So it's the Green Bay Packers, not the Green Bay Packers. Hope that makes sense. Come and see a game. The team is really famous. German word. So this isn't an obscure word at all. You might actually use this word. It's just really hard to say. It's the word for squirrel. Eichhörnchen. Eichhörnchen. Boy, that squirrel looks strange. We don't have squirrels like that here, I think. Looks a little crazy, that squirrel. Eichhörnchen. And here are a few more Wisconsin place names. I'll just pronounce them. Ashwaubenon, Fond du Lac, Potawatomi, Milwaukee, Mukwonago, Shawano. But I'll leave you with this last one. I hope Richard Armitage never actually needs this word. It's the German word for x-rayed. It's the past participle. I really hope Richard Armitage never needs an x-ray, and certainly not in Germany, because if he has to ask for one, this word is kind of a mess. So, geröntgt. Ich muss geröntgt werden. I have to be x-rayed. Geröntgt. Yeah, that's just a really incredibly hard word to say. And who knows, maybe they keep x-ray costs down in Germany just because people can't say that word. I don't know. So, which is harder, German words or Wisconsin place names? I'll leave you to decide the answer to that question for yourself. Meanwhile, thanks for listening. Bye.